and welcome to my channel. I'm Crafty Kathy, and I'm so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. We're doing Dollar Tree DIYs this week, and one of them, by far, is the hottest trend in Christmas for this year. So are you ready to jump in, my friend? Because I'm telling you, I sure am. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to crafting. Our first DIY is going to be a gorgeous standing tree, and it's all Dollar Tree materials, of course. We're going to need this wood tree cutout. You're also going to need one of those self-adhesive wall tiles. Now, mine is this blue and white, but if you can find the one that's silver, I think it's probably a better option. And then you're going to need either some type of a cardstock, decoupage paper, or a napkin for a background. All right, let's get started. I'm going to take my wooden cutout of the tree and I'm going to trace it on the wall tile. Now, I don't know, I was not thinking when I done this, the easiest way to trace this on this wall tile would be to flip that wall tile around the other way because there's a smooth back on it. Only the good Lord knows why I tried to do it on the front where there's all those raised patterns. I don't know what I was thinking, but y'all know me, hot mess. So all I'm going to do is just trace it out there in the middle. Now, thankfully, it worked out okay, and my pattern looked pretty normal to me, but my goodness, Mama said I would always make things harder on myself, and guys, I see it more every day. The older I get, I see something silly like that I do, and I'm like, Mama, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, we're just going to cut this off. See how that back is there that I'm about to tear off? That would have been so easy just to trace it on that white part right there that's totally flat and then just cut it. But anywho, I do things the way I do, and Lord help me for trying. Now what I'm doing here is, since I did it on the front and it was so bumpy on the front, I was really concerned that this tree was going to look crazy. So I flipped it over to the back, which wasn't much smarter than doing it on the front, you know. And at least it looked a little bit more cohesive, and I cut that doggone tree right out of there. And then I took my little pattern there and I held it up against my wooden tree just to make sure that it's going to fit and it's going to look okay. And it did. Now, by no means did I make a perfect cut out of this little tree, but it turns out looking really beautiful in the end. You'll see here in just a minute. Now here, I just take my X-Acto knife, and you see that beautiful pattern that's in the middle? I just cut around it. Just be really careful and do this slowly, and I promise you can do it. Just go around that pattern. It's a raised pattern, so it makes it really easy to cut around. And I was just really careful, and I took my time, and like I always say, by no means was mine perfect. It had some little places that I thought, wow, this is going to look crazy. But in the end, it did not. It looked great. And so I just want to encourage you to keep going, because it's really tough to get like a perfect shape out of this with your X-Acto knife. See, I'm showing you right here, and I'm pointing to the edge where it looks kind of funky right there. But I promise you, it turned out really pretty. So let's keep going. I laid the little wall tile over the top of my tree to see what it was going to look like, and make sure that my background piece is going to look right in there. But before we put down any kind of decoupage, we need a white background. I'm going to use DIY paint in the color called beadboard. Now, anytime you're doing some type of decoupage, in my opinion, it's always best to do either a white or a very, very light background, because it makes your decoupage pop. It really brings a brightness to it, and it just makes it pop. There's really no other way to describe that. So I just gave my tree one quick coat. It was a really messy coat because most of it's going to be covered up anyways. This is just for the background. Now, you know, when I'm doing decoupage, I don't like any kind of straight edges. I always tear my decoupage out. It was pretty easy to tear at first, but then I had to wet my paintbrush. I just put a little squirt of water down, wet the end of a very fine paintbrush, and I just kind of go around the pattern in the way that I want it to be torn out. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here. See where it wets it? It creates an area where you can just tear it so easily, and it's going to be beautiful. Then one more time, I'll lay that top over it just to make sure that it's going to look right, you know, underneath that wall tile. I felt like I needed to pull my decoupage paper down just a little bit more. And so I just make sure once again it's in the perfect location. And then I'm going to take my Elmer's glue stick and I'm going to flip it over halfway, my decoupage paper, and get one side of it stuck down really well. And then I'm just going to flip it over and get the other side. That way I'm not going to move it so I don't have a chance to mess it up. Now, I love to use the glue stick when I'm decoupaging because it is the easiest way to get a perfect result. You're not going to get any wrinkles when you use the glue stick because it's not wet and goopy like Mod Podge is. And if you ask, does that stuff really work though? Does it stick? I promise you, it certainly does stick. I've never had any trouble with any of it coming up. So here I'm just going around, putting a little bit of hot glue underneath all the edges so that my tree will stick down. At first I was going to leave my wall tile that blue and white color, but the more I looked at it, it really bothered me. So I'm going to use Gypsy Green, which is a DIY paint color, and DIY paint is my favorite paint. It's clay-based, it's nice and thick, and it's always beautiful. This Gypsy Green color is my favorite color to use on a Christmas tree. Now, since it had that bright blue color in there, it did take 2 coats to cover this up really good. I did make sure that it was dry before I put the second coat, and you make sure if you're going to dry this wall tile to use low heat and to hold it pretty far back away from it, because if you don't, that wall tile is made from plastic and it will crinkle up on you, and you don't want that to happen after you've done all this hard work. So after I got it dried, I quickly throw it on a second coat and I let that dry, and then I'm going to seal it with Big Top. When you paint over plastic like this, you want to make sure to seal it so that the paint don't just chip off, you know. Now, Big Top is a lot like Mod Podge, except it's really thin, it's not goopy. I like it so much better, and it just takes one little thin coat to cover this to make sure that that paint's going to be nice and protected. Now, if you want to try any of these DIY paints or products, Lori over at Milton's Daughter sells these. I get all of my stuff from her, and like I said, I'll leave her information down below so that you can find her really easy. Now I'm going to take the color Crinoline. It's kind of like an ivory color, and I'm just going to put that on the end of a little chippy brush, just an old junky chippy brush, and I just kind of dab the end of it off because it's going to be just to kind of cover over the top of this and just give it a beautiful softness. I just love the way that that looks, especially when you rub it over that embossed surface, because since it's raised like that, it picks up that white color so beautifully, and it just gives it such a pretty ambiance, I guess you could say. So I go all the way around the little tree and just make sure that I have it kind of, you know, just shadowed in there. And I think that's really pretty. Now we're going to pull out my Sue Lynn Diamond Glitter, honey. I love to use this at Christmas time. If you don't like glitter, just totally omit this step. But all I'm going to do is just glitter up that decoupage paper just ever so slightly. So I'm going to take some Big Top and just rub it across it, just like you would Mod Podge, and just sprinkle that diamond glitter over the top. This diamond glitter is in my Amazon store. It's only around $4, and I love to use it at Christmas. I like to give everything that little glitz. The next thing that I'm going to use is an old chair leg. It's just a spindle from an old chair leg, and I got my husband to cut a little divot in the top so I could just slide my tree in there and it would stand up. And if you don't have a spindle like this one, just use your imagination. Maybe you have an old wooden candlestick or something that came from a thrift store, and you can use that also. I'm big on just using whatever you have in your stash and making it work. The next thing I'm going to do is take DIY colored called Layered Chocolate, and I'm going to give this thing one quick coat, just a little messy coat to kind of give it its color back, I guess you could say. It's funny because I'm going to give it its color back and then take some of it right back off. But I mean, that's just how we do it, you know. Now, I know that not everybody has access to power tools and stuff like that to make a little cut in the top. However, you can glue a couple of Jenga blocks to the back of your tree and make it work on like a candlestick or a chair leg or whatever you have. Here, I'm just using my color crinoline again. I'm just putting a little bit on the very end of an old chippy brush and doing a dry brush. Dry brush just means when you have very little product on your brush. And I don't go directly down. I kind of put my brush at an angle because I want my strokes to look like they're just kind of haphazardly put on there, not purposely put on there. Now, if you don't seal the DIY paint with something, it's water-based and it can be reactivated. So before I seal this little spindle, I'm going to take a baby wipe and rub just here and there to get some of the spots to come back through so it still looks old. That's what I meant by I'm going to put paint on it and then take some of it right back off again. And then I'm just using my little zippy sander here and going through and just kind of making little marks to look like it's haphazard and like it's just old and used. Now I'm just going to slide my little tree right down in the middle of that little divot he cut out. And then I just grabbed some of my old greenery. I'm just going to cut little pieces of different stuff off so that it can have some type of greenery to it. I love this holly. I think I got it from the Dollar General a couple of years ago. I cut off about 4 to 5 pieces of the holly, and then I ended up just cutting a few little sprigs off of that cedar-looking greenery. Now, I get that cedar greenery off of Amazon, and all of the stuff that you see that I use from Amazon is in my Amazon store if you want some of it. And I looked over and saw a rusty star laying there all by itself, and I thought, buddy, you need to be on the top of this tree because I thought it was going to be so pretty. I love rusty stuff, especially at Christmas time. I'm taking some of this ribbon, and it looks like oh, that's not the right ribbon. This ribbon didn't have a spool, but I think it came from Walmart also. I know I'm a little off camera, but all I did was cut one 12-inch strip and a 10-inch strip. And all I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue down one side, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to glue it together where it just makes a simple circle. I'm just putting a little glue down on both of these, bending it over to where it just makes a little circle. I'm just connecting the ends there. This is how we're going to make our bows, and we didn't need a big bow. That's why I cut one at 12 inches, the one in the back, and then the one in the front is the 10-inch. You just put those two together, and then I cut off another 12-inch piece, which is going to be our tails. The tails, I just kind of bent them in half, and then I stick it underneath the two ones that I have curled up into circles, And all I'm going to do is take some jute and tie it all in the middle. And it's going to make the most beautiful bow. You lay your largest bow down first and then your smallest bow on top. And you just kind of squish them together in the middle. Or you can walk it together with your fingers. And you just hold that in one hand. And then in the other hand, I took my ribbon and just stuck it in behind it, where I'm going to put my jute. And I've got this little jute that I got from Walmart. I'm going to just tie it in the middle about 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to cut that little excess off that I don't need. Once I get my ends cut off, I'm just going to fluff out my bows a little bit. We have it tied very tightly in the center so they're not going to come out. And you just open them up, make sure that they're nice and big and fluffy. And now I'm going to dovetail the ends. And if you don't know what dovetail means, you just put your 2 ends together, and I cut it in a downward motion, always making sure that the part that has the wire in it is going to be the longest part. So you kind of just cut like a V shape in it, and then when you open it up, it has a beautiful dovetail. And then just out of habit, I go ahead and fluff my bow again as if it's moved at all, you know. And I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on the front part of my spindle. And that's where my bow is going to sit so beautifully, as though it was supposed to be there all along. This is so pretty. You would never know that this came from the Dollar Tree unless you're an avid Dollar Tree shopper like most of us are, and we see that wall tile and we're like, yep, I know where that came from. So once I get my bow up there, as you see, I fluffed it again. But now it's time to wrap this baby up and put the greenery on here. It's the last thing that we need. I cut mine into kind of small pieces because that's all you're really going to need. You just slide it in behind your bow so that it's going to slightly stick out and look really good. Make sure you wear some finger protectors because you don't want to burn off your fingerprints. You're definitely going to need those. Or maybe not. It just depends. So on the other side, I put my other little piece of greenery, and I did the same thing. I just kind of slide it in right behind the bow. And then I'm going to take those beautiful glittery pieces of ivy that I got. Those are so pretty. I would love to find some more of those. And I'm doing the exact same thing. Putting a little bit of hot glue on the back of them and just popping them right behind those 2 pieces of pine that I just put on there. I think I put 2 pieces of the ivy on each side. I always like to put different greenery instead of just the same one. I like to put 2 or 3 different varieties of greenery on there just to give it a little something special. Now we got to figure out what's going to go right in the center, and I picked these 2 little snowy berries. These came from the Dollar Tree. They had a long piece of wire on them, so I kind of trimmed it down, put a little bit of hot glue on there, and I popped them right in the center of that bow. And that was the finishing touch, and it's so beautiful. And then, just for good measure, I fluffed that bow out one more time, and I hope you like this. I think it's beautiful. The second DIY is where I'm going to show you the hottest trend of 2023, honey. I made these bells last year, and as you see, I made them to be kind of silver bells and look vintage. Well, we're going to take all that off and we're going to totally redo them. I was trying to scratch here so I could show you that it was red underneath, besides just telling you. I don't know why I did that, but anyway. They were red originally, and of course, they're from the Dollar Tree. I'm just taking all the little pieces off of here that I had on it, the jute and all that good stuff, because we're going to totally redo them. Now here we are outside, and you see my beautiful spray table that I have created on top of the dog lot. We are going to use Ultra Matte Black, and it's Rust-Oleum 2 times. If you know me, you know I'm a Rust-Oleum gal. Anytime I'm talking about spray paint, 99% of the time, that's what I'm talking about. We're going to spray the middle of the bells first because it's just easier that way. And you don't have to do a perfect spray. You can see how I'm spraying these bells. I'm just spritzing them. And by the way, that one is just another one that I had, a couple extra ones that I had. So all I'm doing here, see, I'm kind of spritzing. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't even have to be a full cover. You see what I'm saying? It's not even totally covering every little piece of it. And I'm just letting that bell roll around like, you know, it's got somewhere to go. And then I'm going to do the very last bell after I finish that one up. And make sure that you stand back just a little ways from these when you're spraying them. Keep your head back because that, you know, spray can pop back up in your face and you don't want that. So I'm not speeding this up or anything so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I flipped it back over and I'm going to give it a full coat this time. All over, black coat, nothing underneath is going to be showing. And I'm going to do that on each of my bells. Now the next step is very important to do while these are still wet. So as soon as you get done spraying them, you're going to use a half vinegar, half water solution. Mine's kind of a yellowy color because it's apple cider vinegar, but that's all I had. And you're going to want one that's going to spritz. You don't want like a hard stream. You know what I mean? You want it to kind of spritz out. And you are going to lightly spray these. So while it's still wet from the black paint and the vinegar and water solution, you're going to use a copper color. All I had was copper rose, so we're going to make it work. And as you see, I'm doing this in a spritzing motion too. And it makes the most beautiful color. It gives it that dark undertone with like a golden hue. And this is the most popular trend for Christmas in 2023 is this look. It makes the most prettiest look. You'll see here in just a moment. And you spray it as much as you want. If you really like it, go wild with it. It's your DIY. Do whatever you want to do with it. I just lightly spritzed a couple, and then on one or two, I thought, wow, I really like that. So I added just a little bit more. And then once again, while everything is still wet, as soon as I got done with my copper color, I spritzed it again with the water and vinegar solution, just ever so lightly, and let it just kind of drop on it. Or not drop, but just kind of like spritz on it, you know? You're going to do this to the outside mostly, but you're going to very lightly do it on the inside too. Look how beautiful this is. You can literally see the vinegar and water just kind of sitting on top of it, and that's exactly what you want for the effect that we're going to get. Now, this is the hottest trend at Pottery Barn, Kohl's. You can look up these different websites and you're going to see this beautiful color, but we can do it with Dollar Tree materials. And you can do this on glass. You can do it on plastic. It's going to work the same as long as you follow those simple techniques that I showed. I brought it inside while it was still somewhat wet. It was a little tacky, I guess you could say. Not tacky of me to bring it in, but I mean, you know, my paint was a little tacky. Gosh, I'm just such a comedian here. And I just lightly dried it with my low heat and kind of far away because I didn't want to melt it. This is your most important step. When it's totally dry, I grab some antique gold rub and buff and an old junky chippy brush. I get my chippy brushes at the Dollar General. It's actually a basting brush. It's in the kitchen area. I just get a little bit on the end of my brush and dab off the excess, and I'm very lightly feathering it all over my little bell. Now make sure that your bell is totally dry when you do this step, and it all depends on how much you want of the gold. Now, rub and buff can be a little bit more expensive, so if you can just find a gold wax, or even I've seen people use just gold paint, and to me it looks the same. It works the same, but it's all up to you. Now, I do have a rub and buff in my Amazon store, and I bought the 4 tubes, and they were like 15 bucks or maybe 17 bucks, and it's lasted me for a really long time, so it goes a long way. But like I said, use what you've got. If you don't have it, use a gold paint or a gold wax, and the amount that you put on your bells is all up to you. If you like a lot of that gold color, put a lot of the gold. And I tried out different techniques here. The first one, I just kind of swiped it on like I'm dry brushing something. And what I'm doing here is kind of tapping. Just tap, 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 tap all over. And that was my favorite look, is when I tapped it, because it gave it this, it was so beautiful. The tapped look is my favorite. So I ended up tapping all 3 of my bells. I went on the inside, but I did mostly around the bottom rim of the inside, because that's the only part you're going to see. And then I went around the outside and I just tapped. Even that first one that I did, where I kind of just like dry brushed it on there, I went back and tapped over it, and it made it perfect. And like I said, this is the most important step, and you add however much you want on there. I don't want to deter you from not trying the rub and buff, but I just know that some people comment to me and say, that stuff is too expensive, I can't afford it. And I totally understand. So like I said, there are other alternatives. You can try one that you can get at Walmart, like a folk art brand or something. But to me, I love the rub and buff. It was a good investment. It was, like I said, maybe 15 bucks for 4 tubes, and it's lasted me for such a long time. I used a lot of it at Halloween. So I just went through, and you see I'm just using the bare minimum on my brush, and I'm tapping, and these are beautiful. I wanted to add some bells in here, and I've got these smaller rusty bells that I got from Temu, and I'm just going to take some like floral wire. I'm going to put 2 of them on a small piece of floral wire, and I'm just going to run it through that floral wire, and I'm going to twist it so they're not going to go anywhere. I wasn't 100% sure how to do this, but I'm going to show you what I did. I took a thick piece of jute, and I get this jute at Walmart. I kind of laid it in the middle of those 2 bells, and I just twisted them alongside of it. And I also added a little bit of hot glue just for good measure to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And when it dried, I just kind of twisted that jute around it. I took that floral wire and kind of wrapped it around that jute to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Then I just cut off a pretty good long piece. I would say it's probably about 1.5 feet long that I cut off. And I wanted it to have a little hanger on the top, so I'm leaving a little bit of room so that I can have a hanger, but I also want those bells to hit at the very bottom of the bell so that they're going to ring and make the sound like a real bell. So what I did was just tie a knot in this thick jute that I've got, and kind of pull it down. I put a little bitty bit of hot glue there too. Not that I needed it, but I just put it there for whatever reason. And I stuck it down so that the knot would be right there and it would be holding my bells exactly where I wanted them at the bottom. I put a little bit more hot glue and I just glued that jute together. And then I'm slightly going to stick it down through the top of that bell. It's such a small opening that it kind of holds it there. And see, my bells are exactly where I want them to be. Then I just added a little bit of hot glue at the base right there, underneath where I tied my jute, at the base of that bell. And I'm just going to go around with my jute just to cover that up to make it look more finished and nice. And then when I go up on my second row, I'm actually going to put the glue on the jute so I can glue the jute to itself. And I'm just going to go around a couple more times. I think I did a total of maybe 3 or 4 times. And then I just finished my little bit of glue and I cut it off. I forgot to mention a minute ago, if this is the first time you've ever been to my channel, I'm so thankful that you're here and thank you so much for stopping in and spending some time with me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I don't want you leaving without being a part of our family. Also, if you are enjoying this video, give me a big thumbs up because that really helps me out on YouTube. It'll help them to push my videos out there to people who've never seen me before, and that's the best thing you can do to help me out, and I thank you so much. But see how that bell turned out? It's so perfect, and I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other 2. Once I finished with my 3 bells, I did burn off all the little jute hairs with a lighter. And that's all I did with these. Now the best part is coming, and it's to style them. I hope you like this. It's the hottest trend of this year.
Then you know it's Christmas when the snow starts to fall. Then you know it's Christmas for the children above all. Then you know it's Christmas 'cause Santa's on his way. We'll stand under the mistletoe, and then it's Christmas Day. The joyful times we witness forever stays with us. Soon Rudolph hears his whistle.
Don't leave yet because the third one is so cute. This one is simple and easy, and if that's what you're looking for, honey, I got you. These are some new cat cutouts, and they are at the Dollar Tree, and they are adorable. They're really thick and chunky, and I love them. I've got 2 of them here. I'm going to go in with my favorite DIY paint, and it's called Black Velvet, and that's exactly what it looks like. I gave them 1 quick coat on the front and the back. Now, in the middle part, to get a good full coverage, what I do is kind of dab my brush, because if you don't, you can see little pieces of that wood peeking through, and you don't want that on a black cat, unless you choose another color, but you can color your cat any color you want. But I wanted mine to be little black kitties. So I got both of my cats colored, and I just dried them down really quick. The next thing that I did is took a really tiny drill bit and put it in the end of my drill, and at the top of his paw, I'm just going to make a tiny little hole so that I can stick an eye hook. Now, you can get these eye hooks at the Dollar Tree. These came off of the little cardinal ornaments that I made those in the last video when I made those candle holders that had the cardinals inside. I pulled these little eye hooks off, and that's exactly what I'm going to use to go in the end of their paw. And I just screwed it right in very easily. If you don't have a drill, no frets, just take a very small screwdriver like one of those from the Dollar Tree and just kind of, keep pushing into the end of the cat. You'll get there, but it'll take just a little bit longer. And then take your little eye hook and just screw it right in the end. It's very simple. And both of my little kitties have their hooks in there. I had some red ornaments that I think I got at a thrift store or something. They had $2 on them and there was like $1 million in there. And it's these glittery red. I probably shouldn't have used the glitter. I made my grandson's names with my Cricut. I did Kyler and Kason. That's my grandbabies. And if you don't have a Cricut machine, don't worry. You can use some of those stickers at the Dollar Tree. And they have gorgeous stickers at Walmart for, I think they're about $1.50, $1.98. And they're really pretty writing. I just covered these up with a little bit of Mod Podge just to make sure that it's not going to come off, because the names were really hard to stick on that glitter. And then I just painted the tops of them black, and even the little hangers, I wanted them to be black because I wanted it all to match and all to look cohesive. And I went up to the top of the little eye hooks too and painted those black. The very last thing that I did was glued one of those little pre-made bows that I get from Amazon. And these are in my Amazon store in case you want some. There is so many in a package and I've used them for a few Christmases. This was so easy and look how cute these are. One of the hottest trends this Christmas.
Merry Christmas, baby. Reindeer's coming out to play. Santa Claus is packing the presents, making sure you've been behaving okay. Merry Christmas, honey. Yeah. The snowman's...
And if you hung around through this whole video, I sure do hope you liked it. I hope it inspired you to make some of these DIYs. And if it did, let me know. Please let me know in the comments which one is your favorite one. Now, these are the hottest trends that's happening this Christmas, so I sure do hope that you make some of these. Now, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please don't leave this channel without hitting that little red subscribe button down by my name. I don't want you leaving. I want you to be a part of our family right here on YouTube. Also, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give me that big thumbs up because it really helps me out on YouTube. They'll put my videos out there to people who've never seen me before, and y'all know that I'm so thankful for that. And I'm thankful for each and every one of y'all and for the time that y'all came and gave me today. My videos are every Monday and Thursday at 7 o'clock. I hope to see you on the next, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you're on an iPhone, you can go and just click right onto my face and it'll subscribe you to my channel. Also, there's a video right here that's very similar to this content. Push it and it'll take you to that one when this one's finished. God bless you and your families.